and good afternoon. It is time for Lunch and Learn with me. I am your host, Dr. Polly Heil-Mealey, here at Abundant Health and Wellness, and we are a holistic clinic in downtown Humble on Main Street and Avenue C. So if you're ever this way, feel free to drop in and say hello to us because we would love to meet you. We have had a lot of people reach out to us from far corners of the United States and beyond that say they watch the videos and they appreciate the free information. So that's always good. It's always good to get that feedback, to know that you're out there and I'm not just speaking to an empty room, because I am in my office. And if you were here with me, I would be facing you and we would be talking across the desk just like I am right now. So I want to talk to you about being tired. I want to talk to you about energy depletion. And most people are tired. The report that I'm reading gives us 16 reasons why our energy may be low or depleted. Now, I do not think that we will get through all 16 of these today because there's so much to talk about on each one. Now, I remember being a very young mom, and of course, I wasn't all that young, comparatively speaking. I was 23 when I got married, and I had my first child at 25, and I remember living in England, and Hillary was about 3, and I remember going to the doctor and saying, I'm so tired, and I thought there was something wrong with me, and she said, honey, you have 2 toddlers, and it was like, I know, but I should not be this tired, and she said, yes, honey, you should be this tired. You are a mom with young children, and you're running around all day, and so that is why you're tired. So basically, it was suck it up, buttercup, and get on about your day. And so for those of you who know me, I am very busy. I get up at 6 o'clock every morning, if not before, and I am pretty much running full steam ahead until I crash around 10 o'clock at night. So I am very busy and I enjoy my life and I enjoy what I do, but there are times when I am tired. And so I just wanted to give you a few of these reasons today. We'll probably continue this next week depending on how far we go. And of course, as always, you're welcome to ask questions and always provide feedback so I know that you are out there. So I appreciate that very much. So one of the, 20% of people in the United States say that they are tired, that they are chronically tired. Now, I think with the political climate that we're in right now, with all of the yik yak and you can't say anything without people taking offense, I think that's very wearisome and very tiring. I think that all of the hostility, the atmosphere is charged with just negativity, and I think that is very, very tiring. I remember being in school when I was a teacher and a principal, and on the days that everybody got along and was happy, it was a better day. But then the days that we had a lot of conflict and drama, it was just very, very tiring. So I do believe that we live in a very tiring environment. And so I want you to be very mindful of things that are pulling you down, of people that are pulling you down, that sap your energy, because you are created by God to do something really, really great. And if you don't have any energy, then you're going to have some issues. So let's get to this report. The first thing that they list is adrenal fatigue. Now, if you go to your medical doctor and you say that you have adrenal fatigue, they're going to tell you that there's no such thing, okay? In holistic world, it is a thing, and in some of your functional medicine doctors, they will say that it is a thing. So this is how you know if you have adrenal fatigue. You can look in your eyes, and if your pupils are really, really big, that is a sign of adrenal fatigue. It also, your pupils will be large if you are taking antidepressants. So if that's you, then you have to kind of weigh that in. Also, if you smoke marijuana recreationally, then your pupils are going to be large as well. So barring those 2 things, if your pupils are large, then you probably have adrenal fatigue. Now, adrenals sit on top of your kidneys. They're little hats that sit on top of your kidneys, and they produce hormones. They produce adrenaline, epinephrine, norepinephrine, and it is your fight or flight hormones. And so if you are in a constant state of stress and you are producing a lot of cortisol, that's another hormone that the adrenals make, then you could have something called adrenal fatigue. Now you can go to your doctor and you can have your cortisol tested. It's a hormone test. We can do it here. We can do it by blood spot, or we can do it by saliva. And if your cortisol is spiking at the wrong time, then you could be a candidate for adrenal fatigue. If you have lived a lifetime of stress and your adrenals have been pumping out these fight or flight hormones for a long time, then you could definitely be a candidate for adrenal fatigue. Now, here are some symptoms for adrenal fatigue, okay? Feeling tired for no reason, even though you get sufficient amount of sleep at night. Difficulty getting up in the morning. So if you're not a morning person, this could be you. Now, I am a morning person. I do like it quiet in the morning. I have a phone. Of course, we all have phones. My phone turns itself off at 10 o'clock. So if you try and text me after 10 o'clock, it's not going to come through because why? I have to guard my rest and I don't want to have the ping, ping, ping all night long. The good thing about the phone is that you can leave a text message or a instant message, direct message, whatever you want to call it. And people can have their phone turned off while they're sleeping, but then when they wake up, they've got these happy little messages in there. So one day I had, my phone had gone to sleep, and when I woke up in the next morning, there was a text saying, "Are you still awake?" And I texted back, "Well, I'm awake now." And it was like 7 o'clock. Now, I am not ready to talk to you on the phone at 7 o'clock. I'm just going to throw that out there. And my sweet friend who had texted me called me, and it's like, I didn't answer the phone. I'm just going to tell you, I was not in the mood to talk to somebody that early in the morning. And I called her back a few minutes later, and she just laughed, and I laughed. So the good thing is you want to turn your phone off so that you can get the rest that you need, okay? If you are feeling overwhelmed or run down, this could be a sign of adrenal fatigue. If you crave sweets or salty food. Now, I think really salty food is the kicker here. Usually if you're craving sweets, you've got a Candida issue, you maybe have a pancreatic issue, but if you're craving that salt, then you definitely have adrenal issues. Now, my pupils, if you could see into my eye, my pupils are normal size. They're not, expanded. So I know I'm not in adrenal fatigue, but you know what? At the end of the day, if I have not had lunch, if I've had to work straight through the day and I go home, you know what I'm first gonna grab? I'm gonna grab some nuts or something salty because that's what my body is craving. So I know that I have depleted my adrenals for that day. If you feel more awake or energetic after 6 p.m. than you do during the day, and again, that is because of the cortisol shift. And so you need to have that tested, and that is a blood test that you can have. And then if you have trouble recovering from stress or illness, that's another way you know that you have adrenal fatigue. So adrenal fatigue is a real thing, okay? The second thing that they list here is a B12 deficiency. Now, vitamin Bs, you've got, I think, 18 vitamin Bs, and I never heard of 18 until I went to a conference last year. I knew there was I knew all the way through 17, okay? But now I think there is a vitamin B18, and vitamin Bs are really better when you take them in combination. So a lot of you may be taking a B complex, and these are the anti-stress vitamins. They are the keep me sane vitamins, okay? There are water soluble, so you cannot take too much. If you take too much, you're just going to pee it away. If you take a vitamin that has a lot of B12 in it, you will know that when you do urinate, you're going to have a fluorescent color because the vitamin is really, really potent in B12. Now, everybody needs B12. Everybody. Some people are not able to metabolize the B12. So we've talked about this kind of, but not really, but we've talked about methylation issues. Now, if somebody will remind me, I will post a diagram of the methylation cycle. But if you have a gene SNP that is the MTHFR or a variant thereof, and until we started doing DNA testing, I did not know there were variants thereof, but the MTHFR is a gene, and if you have that dysfunction, you're not able to complete the cell work cycle. And what that means is that you have a lot of B12 in your blood work, but it's not getting into the cell. And this is where you need it. You don't need it in your blood, you need it in the cell. And so there are two types of B12. There is the regular B12, and I've got my computer here because I can't remember how to say this word. It is called, oh my goodness, I went to the wrong page. It is called cyanocobalamin, okay? That is your regular B12. But there is a methylcobalamin, which is your methylated B12. So if you have this methylation dysfunction, you need to have the methyl B12 variety. And it's a long, complicated thing. I don't want to take up my time right now. You're just going to have to trust me. You're going to have to Google it and figure it out for yourself. But B12, if you don't have enough B12, you're going to be tired. Now, I remember as a little girl that my mom had some friends that would go and get what they called gold shots. Okay, and these gold shots, I think they called them gold because they were so expensive, but it was a B12 injection. So let's see what the report says about your B12. B12 is essential for the formulation of red blood cells, optimizing the functioning of your nerve tissues. Remember, I told you they're the don't go crazy vitamins, and absorption of folic acid, among other things. A deficiency in vitamin B12 typically develops gradually over the years, and the initial symptoms may be subtle. It is estimated that 6% of the people aged 60 and older are deficient in vitamin B12 in the United States and in the United Kingdom. And nearly 20% of the population have only marginal levels. So this is quite a big issue. And then I think the DNA people say that about 80% of the population have a methylation dysfunction. So I think it's pretty safe to say that everybody needs to be taking your B vitamins, and you need to take B12, either methylated or not, depending on what your gene dysfunction is, okay? When someone does not get enough of B12, the production of red blood cell decline, and if not treated, will additionally or eventually result in anemia. So B12 deficiency may also produce pernicious anemia, which is a blood disorder in which individuals cannot make enough of intrinsic factor. Now, intrinsic factor, that just is a nebulous name. It doesn't really tell you what it is, but it's made in the stomach. And if you don't have enough intrinsic factor, then you can't absorb your B12. If you can't absorb your B12, then you've got a problem there. And that's why they take those gold shots, because that B12 just goes right into the bloodstream and it bypasses the stomach because you don't have intrinsic factor. Now, who doesn't make intrinsic factor? All you people out there who've got the gastric sleeve, the gastric bypass, you've got ulcers and that kind of thing. So if you have any kind of digestive issue, you probably are going to have problems metabolizing your B12 because you may not have that intrinsic factor. So other possible causes of B12 deficiency might be Crohn's disease, short bowel syndrome. Now, I had to look that up because I'm thinking nobody's born with short bowel syndrome. What is that? Well, those are the people that have had some kind of sickness and disease in the bowel where they have taken the small intestine and they have shortened the small intestine. Now, inside the cells of the small intestine is where we absorb our food. So if you've got short bowel syndrome, then you're not going to have as much length in order to absorb your food. Now remember, God is really smart. He didn't give you over 6 feet of intestines just because he decided I'm going to cram as much in there as I can. You have to have that much in order to absorb and do whatever your body's doing on the inside. It's very, very complicated, and I don't want to get into all of that right now. But if you've had surgery and you have shortened that small intestine, then you're going to have problems metabolizing your B12. Anybody that has atopic gastritis, weight loss surgery, as I said, intestinal parasites, right? Graves' disease, lupus disease, right? Or if you are following a vegan diet, or if you have chronic alcoholism, then you will have a risk of B12 deficiency. And so that could be why you're tired. Again, as we get older, we just don't have enough of what we need to get us where we need to be. And so this is why we supplement. We have to supplement because our food is not as nutritionally dense as it used to be because of the farming methods that we have now. And so thank God we've got these different supplements that we can use to increase our nutrients so we don't have these issues. So if you are B12 deficient, these are some of the things that you might find. You might find that you are tired, that you have shortness of breath. So if you are somebody who is a shallow breather, you just breathe like that, then you might be short on your B12. If you have heart palpitations or you have irregular heartbeat, then you could be B12 deficient. You could be B12. That's kind of a tongue twister, isn't it? If you have a sore tongue or a sore mouth, you could be B12 deficient. If you have unexplained weight loss, then you could be B12 deficient. Or if you have yellowish or pale skin, that would be it. If you have menstrual difficulties, B12 deficiency may be the issue. And a simple blood test, right, can determine that. Now, a lot of times people come in with their blood work and their B12 is way above what it should be. And they say, well, I can't be short on B12 because I have tons of B12. I'm higher than normal. Well, what that means is your B12 is still in the blood. It's not getting into the cells. So your B12 has to get into the cells to do that Krebs cycle, that methylation cycle, so that you're able to do what you need to do. Now, it's very, very complicated. I'll post a picture, and what it just means is all of the different components in the cell work cycle donate a carbon atom to the guy next door, to the guy, to the neighbor, to the right, if you're looking at the cell picture. When it gets to the B12 and the folate, if you have this MTHFR deficiency, you're not able to complete that methyl donor group. And so then the cell does not do what it needs to do. And this is exacerbated by age. I hate to say that. Okay. Number 3 on the list of why we are tired, and I am running out of time already. I told you I wouldn't get to all 16 today, so we'll continue this next week. But the third reason that people are tired all the time is because they have little parasites called Candida in their system. Now, how do you know that you have Candida? Well, you can go to the mirror, you can stick your tongue out. If your tongue has a white coating on it, you know that you are full of fungus. Candida is a yeast, it's a fungus, and it is a parasite, and it will crave sugar. Okay, it will absolutely crave sugar. So if you have a sweet tooth, and we all do, and our American diet, standard American diet, and we know that by the loving acronym SAD, right? The standard American diet is full of sugar. It's full of processed foods, and it's full of high fructose corn syrup. It's full of a lot of sugar, and so sugar feeds yeast. Now, there are a lot of medical doctors who think that cancer is nothing more than yeast run amok. And so we want to be really, really careful that we don't have yeast in the system. Now, I will tell you, everybody has yeast. Everybody does. It's part of the microbiome in the human. But what you want to know is that your good flora should be 80% of your critter population in your gut. The yeast and the other bad bacteria, almost everybody has strep, almost everybody has staph in the gut. That's just how we are. But if you have 80% of the good guys, it will keep the 20% in check of the bad guys. Now, we've talked about this before. If you've ever have had a course of antibiotics, you have killed all the bacteria in your gut, the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. So you always have to replant the good guys in order to keep the bad guys in check. So that's just something, nature shows us this in our garden. I know that I am an avid gardener. I love to garden, and I will go out in the spring and I'll clear out everything from the fall and the winter, and I'll plant brand new baby plants, and I love them. And I know that if I don't tend to them, within 3 or 4 weeks, I'll go out there and they will have been choked to death because of the weeds. Now, I do not plant weeds. Okay, weeds are opportunistic and they just find me. It's the same in your gut. Nobody ever plants Candida. Nobody ever plants strep or staph bacteria. It just finds you. So you have to replant the good bacteria in order to keep the bad bacteria in check. So Candida, okay, exists in low levels in the mouth and intestinal tract, where it helps with the absorption of nutrients and digestion. When this fungus is overproduced, it can cause an infection in the vagina, the mouth, the intestinal tract, although it can also affect the skin and the mucous membranes. Among people who have weakened immune systems, this infection can spread into the blood and membranes around the brain and the heart. So Candida is a really, really dangerous thing, and so we want to make sure that it is kept in check. And like I said, if you look at your tongue, you go to the mirror and you look at your tongue and it is white, you will know that you have Candida overgrowth, and most people do. If you have a lot of sweets, if you have a lot of processed food, if you eat a lot of fast food, you're getting a lot of sugar, which will help with this or increase the Candida in there. So factors that can cause Candida infection include, and I've just said this, a diet high in processed carbohydrates and sugar, chronic stress, the use of antibiotics, the use of oral contraceptives. So you girls out there who are on the birth control pill, you're going to have more problem with yeast than people that don't do that, okay? If you have a weakened immune system or you have diabetes, you're going to have a greater problem with the Candida. Now, signs of Candida overgrowth, besides the white tongue, is exhaustion no matter how much sleep you get. Craving for sweet, which we've already said that. Vaginal or urinary tract infections that are recurring, okay? Gas and bloating. So if you've got that gas and bloating, what's happening is that those yeast bugs are fermenting. And especially if you're on a detox program and you're not moving your bowels 2 to 3 times a day, then you're killing off the yeast, but they're not going anywhere. So they are putrefying and decaying and filling your little gut up with gas, right? So we don't want that to happen. So check yourself out. And if you are having those kind of problems, then we need to do some gastric work so that you're able to move forward with that. Thrush or white coating on the tongue, we talked about that. Bad breath, joint pain, mental fogginess, loss of libido. Now, nobody's got time for that. Chronic allergy, sinus, or postnasal drip. And then if you are very, very prone to mood swings, also that could be something that is Candida related. Now, I never knew this until I started studying this, but there are multiple varieties of Candida. There's the Candida, and then there is another, I want to say Mozilla, but that may not be quite right. but there's like 7 to 8 different varieties. And so you have to be really, really specific in what you're trying to address here. So a lot of people don't know this, but there is a disease out there, or a dysfunction, or a syndrome called SIBO, S-I-B-O, small intestine bacterial overgrowth. So what that means is that the wrong kind of bugs are in your small intestine. Your small intestine is where you absorb all of the nutrients from your diet. Now, this is what I did not know, but you have little critters in the small intestine that are food that your body needs to make your neurotransmitters. And your neurotransmitters, of course, are in your brain, but there's a gut-brain connection. There's also a gut-heart connection. And so if you don't have the right critters in your gut, you're not going to have the right function in your body. And so this is why insomnia, the tiredness, this is why you could have heart palpitations and that kind of thing, because you don't have the right critter. So anytime you do antibiotics, and we're so glad that we have antibiotics today, because we have a much greater opportunity to overcome sickness and disease if we have that, but we don't want to overdo it. If you do have to have antibiotics, we want to make sure that you replant the good stuff. Okay, you've got to on purpose plant those flowers. The weeds are opportunistic. They will find you. So be good to yourself and do what you need to do. So if you do have a Candida infection, a comprehensive stool test could provide the answers so you can begin your treatment and dietary change. Now, I want to just segue over here into something that's called leaky gut syndrome. Now, most people don't understand what that means, because they know that the GI tract is from your mouth to your bottom. It's one continual tract. That's the very first thing that the embryo makes when the sperm and the egg come together. And it is inside coated from your mouth to your bottom with a mucous membrane. Now, when you have a lot of Candida, when you have that overgrowth, that Candida is going to munch its way through the tight junctures in your large and small intestine, and it's going to make that GI tract permeable. What does that mean? That means that you're going to have undigested food particles seep through those junctions into the bloodstream. The bloodstream is going to see that as an allergen, and it is going to start fighting, right, these proteins that it is not used to seeing. Why is that? Because God didn't make us where our undigested food should just get in the bloodstream. It should not ever get out of the GI tract. Every part of the body has its own function, and if it functions correctly, then we stay in health. If it functions incorrectly, then we get out of balance, and this is how we have sickness and disease. So if you have a lot of gas and bloating, when you're looking in your eye, and this is why as an iridologist, and you can see the eyes behind me, but if you want to take a mirror and take a magnifying glass and look at your eye, okay, you're going to see that you've got your pupil in the center of your eye, and then right around that pupil is the stomach reflex area. Now, if you are a blue-eyed person, that stomach area should be the cleanest, prettiest blue of your whole eye. And you know what I see most of the time? I see most of the time that is a gray or brown area, and that means that the people are not digesting their food. If you're not digesting your food, guess what? You're going to have small intestine bacteria overgrowth, you're going to have Candida, and you may even have leaky gut syndrome. And so we want to make sure that you pay attention to this. Now, if you are brown-eyed, it's not as easy to see because of the color. I mean, if you've got a brown eye, everything's brown. And so you're just going to have to look for other signs. There's some different structural signs that I can show you when you come in, and we can look at that. But that's one reason why I look at the eye, because if you cannot absorb your food, then you cannot be well. Now, you may remember, and I know I'm running out of time, but we used to, or we have in the past, put up a diagram called the ripple effect. Now, the ripple effect is a great diagram by Transformation Enzyme Corporation, and we do use their products. I love their products. And what this particular diagram shows is that if digestion and absorption is good, then the body is going to have what it needs to repair and be healthy. If digestion and absorption is poor, then you're going to have all other maladies in there. And so I love this diagram, and we will post it at the end of this video so that you can keep up with me and know what you're looking at. So as I said earlier, we've got 16 signs, and my time is up, and I've only been able to cover 3. So obviously this is going to be a multi-part series, and I'm happy to share that with you. If you have any questions whatsoever, please let us know. If you feel like you've got Candida because you've got that white on your tongue, or you've got recurring vaginal infections, or you've got even toenail fungus, right? If you have toenail fungus, that is a sign that you have systemic yeast issues. So your body's going to tell you what it needs to do, and we can definitely help you get rid of all that without giving you harsh medicines that are going to kill your liver. So TGIF, it is Friday. Be good to yourself this weekend. Take some time off, relax, recover, be mindful of what you're doing, and I will see you next week. Take care.